I seem to support. I think if you are just already on work, support on the path. Yes.
Okay. You are welcome to this panel on Rupturing African cultural memories of identities in Nigerian drama in 2008. Also, we have the panel who is going to be presenting a paper on non-use of work. Okay, the focus of the group, as you have seen, is it will be a general theme of LSA talking about African identity emotions. Okay, so if something is emotion, it suggests that something that is fluid, something that is not static, is something that is constantly being renegotiated. So consequently, we know that there will be one way or the other certain challenges in actually at this point saying this is really the African identity you're talking about, especially if you were around in the morning to listen to the lead paper presentation, you saw the white men and women in the Yoruba attire dancing, especially at the wedding ceremony. So one way or the other, you will say they have been Africanized. So these are issues we want to now look at. How new dramas in Nigeria, particularly, renegotiating or rupturing what is understood as cultural identity, or is there any homogeneous identity that is not being transformed constantly over and over and over? So on that note, I welcome you to this section, and we are going to have Mr. Atoyebi Akin presenting first. He will introduce himself and then talk to his work. You are welcome, Mr. Akin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Atoyebi Akin. I work as a researcher with Center for Performing Arts and Film Studies in Education, Osogbo. I also work as a part-time lecturer with Osun State University. The title of my paper, okay, before I go into that, let me say that my research interest is in verbatim theater, cultural studies, dramatic literature, and so on. Okay, now to the topic of the day. I titled my paper, Imagine Provocative Autobiographical Drama on the Nigerian Stage, an examination of Eme Idegu and Bode Ojoneyi's theater activism. Meanwhile, I would like to start with the introduction by telling us that it is more or less like a general perception that autobiographical work or autobiography, memo, and all other variants that we have is an attempt to whitewash oneself after some dirty experiences. But you know, that is most of the that is more emphasized by the Marxist ideology. But against that, we have a kind of quote that says, that's okay in the introduction. Despite the fact that we cannot actually overemphasize the tool of autobiography in establishing one's authority, one's interest, but it is said that yet life writings have provided invaluable data for social historians of actual social experience of class struggle. Whether we like it or not, if the hegemony can write, I'm very sure also that the oppressed also can write. And writing goes on. And we should also know that that is one of the medium through which meaning is negotiated. Now, speaking to the topic of this presentation, what is the provocativeness in autobiographical theater? Like I have established what we understand by autobiography, or let me say the contestation on it. I would like to say that the word provocative, as used in the title of this paper, is a deliberate choice of word to show the sense of apprehension that resides in my paper and to appreciate the depth of my, you audience, curiosity of it. I would like to answer two questions. Why would autobiographical play or theater be provocative? And how can autobiographical theater or play be provocative? To answer the why question, autobiography as a form of literary creativity is highly personal, utilitarian, and oftentimes controversial for the nature of issues or experiences it often explores. It is important to add that for the employment of several theoretical elements, that is, the creative dramatization of any human experience, it could make any narrativity to be more strong. That is, the element of theater could make the narrative to be more strong, effective, and purging for the writer, not only the writer, also for reader as well. Again, looking at what Bostain calls voyeurism experience, as you are reading a biographical work, you are being made to know that you are actually reading a life story, and it will be more, affective, more than just a fictional work. So you are likely going to be drawn into the world of the author, following him through, or the playwright in this case, following him through the ordeal that he is trying to share as a witness. Now, what is more, the peculiarity of the autobiographical plays of this presentation, which inspired the title of this paper, lies in the apparent activistic tonality and the pursuit of social justice that pervade the ingenious craft of the playwrights. These playwrights were more or less considered as activists for me, based on what they explore in their works. The plays are a representation of personal experience of stark injustice and oppression in the end of certain hegemony in the public service. Therefore, by the dramatization of the nature of experience explored in the plays, the playwrights have not only engaged in what Emuna called self-revelatory performance, but in equal measure, other debauchery performance. Because, by this time, the issue of self and other is not new to philosophical, discourse in explaining, individuals' disposition to others. Now, as the playwright engaging in his own, narration, is trying to tell his own story, is also with equal breadth telling the story of others. And when we're talking about others in this situation, we should understand that it's a story between the valiant and the protagonist. So he is not only doing a kind of self, narration, but he's also doing other debauchery performance. And where the dark secret of the valiant, others, is divulged as a seeming surmounting hegemonic force that shatters sown in the infinite chasm. In essence, the ominous deeds of the valiant others is brought to the open for public scrutiny. Thus, it becomes the obscene site of record for the valiant's misdeed, and equally site for the reader, audience, or public to appreciate the evil of the valiant. Okay, let me quickly look at the how. The basis of its provocativeness with regards to the how question, as put above, is related to the essence and techniques that are often employed in autobiography. Going by Legim's scholarly proposition in his autobiographical part, a notion of direct witnessing to life experience is established. However, amidst several literary techniques possible, it appears that the employment of verbatim theatrical techniques remain very poignant, strong, and daring in infusing life and a sense of verisimilitude, that is authenticity, in what they perform to the public. I need to add here that when using verbatim techniques, certain journalistic items such as interview, voice record, news tidbits, chat, screenshot, and digital hyperlink, among others, are often used to serve instruments to build dialogue, elevate plot progression, and elevate plot progression. These items are often gathered from people and situations in covered story. Consequently, the event, speech, action, inaction, and counter actions of characters in the story are better appreciated, reflected by the audience or the reader. A point of uniqueness of verbatim technique is that while the projection of the villain's deed may be discarded for subjectivity of the playwright, it lays bare their perfidiousness for the public scrutiny through archival materiality. How costly and provocative is this area theater to the hypocrisy of the hegemony? Because the truth of the matter is that when we talk about social injustice, like I said, that this is more or less as a nexus of what the playwrights try to fight. The hegemony or the oppressor often hide under some, pretense. They can even go to the extent like the issue before me to feed the public with, fallacy, with false news. So there is this corruption of the media to feed us with lies. In other words, they believe that they have the power to dominate the media, to feed the mind of people, to engineer their mind against, anyone they consider as enemy. But truth be told, there emerged something in Nigeria, so to speak, as the first of its kind verbatim theater tradition and expressed in verbatim play. The beauty of this work lies in the use of live materials, archival body, and some other relevant materials that are, that can be verified in the course of the play. And therefore, any interested, researcher, even the audience, have the liberty and the access to consider what the playwright is projecting and with what the hegemony has already given outside there. Now, dangerous play in the provocative autobiographical Nigerian theater. Why this? The truth of the matter is that in the Nigerian space, socio-political space, we should all understand that it is a very tense and controversial space, a space where the hegemony don't want the oppressed to speak or to have anything to do with, coming up with their mind or with their ordeal. So to borrow the word of Femi Oshofisan's inaugural lecture, certain contemporary playwrights of the post-colonial state can rightly be said to have been playing dangerously to the censorship of the hegemony. And okay, let me continue. Especially for their activistic vision that strongly calls for social justice. It is needless to say that any activist playwright in the contemporary Nigeria can never be in the good book of the hegemony. A fatal reason can be linked with their confrontational craft, especially the adoption of the aforementioned theatrical technique explained above. It is surprising that about the precarious ordeal perceived to be awaiting any playwright who dares such path. There are few ones who are hell-bent in their commitment to the true cause of their convictions in their creative endeavor. The truth of the matter now is that it takes a very bold and daring, heart to confront the hegemony, and this is what the two playwrights have done in their work. To quickly look at the play, because I'm going into the play now. Please, how many minutes do I have now? 5 minutes. Okay. Let me quickly go to the plays I'm looking at. Looking at Emi Idegu's Beloved Odolu Kingdom, Truth on Trial and the Conspiracy. Let me quickly give what really happened so that we will not, I will minimize or maximize my time to do what I intend to do. The Beloved Odogu is more or less a portrayal of what Nigerian experienced political-wise during Yar'Adua's era. And, the scene of this playwright as put in the text beloved Dolu Kingdom is that he yes, thank you. He tried to, cite or directly, verbally, the statement of Buhari during the campaign, a kind of that shows the desperation. And again, that book has received by, the hegemony in the place of work of Emi Idegu. They saw it as a kind of insult on their ethnicity. And like we all know, that truth sometimes can be so, can be so dreadful. Truth can be so, challenging. And, despite that, the man was eventually, victimized. Having recommended the text, he was asked to return back the money to the students, even though it was a consensus, it was an agreement between the board of the school who recommended the text to a particular level of the students. So in this sense of injustice, the man went into his creativity to write what we refer to as Truth on Trial and the Conspiracy. And looking at what he explored through these things, we were able to see that the hegemony often don't like the exposition of their perfidiousness. They dread so much, letting their evil deeds to come to the public, not even by the portrayal of the theatrical elements, because it makes it so lasting in the memory of time and even of people. Now, quickly looking at what Ojoni did with for the love of Sisyphus and a dance of beef, please. Can you? Okay. Okay, Ojoni actually uses for the love of Sisyphus to externalize his experience, his ordeal, in the hands of certain hegemony in a social institution, a university for that matter. It is a very serious case of blackmail and defamation of character. But one brilliant thing about this matter is that against what this hegemony has painted to the public as him being the one changing result and engaging in result racketeering, and to the point that he will not budge even when he was able to externalize and give the public the sense of truth by making it open to us through the use of verbatim theater. He expressed his own mind and he gives us something to actually compare it with. Now, to going to the conclusion, please kindly move to the conclusion. The verbatim, the selected Idegu's play and the experimentation of Ojoni's dramatic memo, written in a form of verbatim tradition, expedites part of Martin's 6th exposition of verbatim theater. He advances that the memo succeeds. I'm not reading his citation now, what I cited, or what I quote rather. The memo succeeds, the memos, they succeed in representing the social anomaly implicated in the gross result racketeering and its trajectory fallout of Ojoni's blackmail and defamation of character through the instrumentality of human crooks and the manipulation of media in the end of certain hegemony in the social space. In similar vein, it creates additional perspective to Osun State University Tech Standard as publicized by national print, newspaper and social media, and largely reconstruct the story in the light of the oppressed versus the oppressor. It also served the concrete explication of the link between the autobiographic story and its historical trappings. In the word of Chris Megan, the play has enabled its audience to undertake a collective act of bearing witness as it replaces politicking of events, ruses, and secrecy as spoken testimony in order to retrieve a sense of the complexity of issues that have been too easily turned into digestible headlines. Now, okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so please, what we're going to do is that we'll take all the presentations and then we will outline the question. So the second presenter is already on time. It's Joel Fire from the Ministry of Connectivity. He will introduce himself and so we take you. Dr. Fire, can you hear us? Please unmute yourself.
Dr. Fire, please unmute yourself.
Hello, please unmute yourself.
Dr. Fire.
Okay, I think he's trying to talk now. Can you hear us now, Dr. Fire? Hello?
Can you hear us? If you will proceed and come back to you.
Is he responding to the message you sent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please have an answer.
Okay, then I think what we will do is to return to him. So we'll go to the third person. Please, you have 15 minutes. And the third person is Folakemi Ogungbe. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. I feel like an imposter. Actually, I am an imposter in this panel because my subject is different. It's film, it's not theater, but then theater is the home, theater is the background, so please pardon me and please help engage my presentation. Okay, so my paper is titled Pressure Tiwa. Pressure Tiwa translates as there is pressure. So pressure Tiwa, extortion, harassment, and allure in the production of Nollywood in Lagos. I have to quickly state that, not because I want to sound cliche, or to, start making excuses or anything, but I want to say that this work is not yet complete. It's a work in progress. I'm going to state the reasons for this later on, but then I think I have sufficient information to present this paper. Okay. So the content. I'm going to start with an introduction. I will say the reason for the research, go to the questions that I'm interrogating, talk about Nollywood and Lagos scholars. That's how I point them. And then talking to the filmmakers, my findings, and the summary. Next slide, please. So, this conference is holding in Lagos right now. And if I have to ask you individually for your experiences in Lagos, what's it going to be? Are you going to see the city as alluring or annoying? Or is it going to be a mix of the two? I have to put this premise because this is going to form the foundation for what I'm trying to talk about in this paper. In the next slide, I'll give an introduction. So Lagos is no doubt a fascinating city. It is both a place that people want to be and people do not want to be. And many films have carried the famous Lagos icons, the bridges, the famous Lekki Ikoyi Link Bridge, the Third Mainland Bridge, and others. Someone said that the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge has become a character in Nollywood films. We've had flyovers shown in film. We have had the Lagos Arometa, the three white men. We've seen the yellow Danfo buses dotting the landscape, the Civic Center, Cathedral Church of Christ, the Marina, the Nest Office, the Co-Atlantic Hotel, the water bodies, large ships, small boats, and we've also experienced Lagos street energy. Indeed, Lagos has been described as, the mega city, with a very high population, right? And it's obviously one of the largest cities in the world. At this juncture, I need to state that my research is practice-based, and I'm very much interested in researching the production of films as against film studies in general. So I need to state that. Okay, still introducing. Despite the fascinations of Lagos, there are definitely several issues, as you can see in the photograph. I mean, there is food on the vendor, and there is sewage or filth around it, and people are going to eat out of that anyway. So despite the fascinations with Lagos, there are several issues with living in Lagos, from environmental factors, poor drainage, poor sewage system, poor waste management, environmental degradation arising from overpopulation, obviously, and poor megacity management. And Jonathan Haynes has described Lagos as an urban apocalypse because of human misery and environmental challenges. However, Lagos remains the star of Nollywood movies. That's by Akim Adam in 2019. And many Nollywood films have featured Lagos, from old Nollywood such as Sharon Stone made in 2002 to One Lagos Night as recent as 2021. More than any other city or town in Nigeria, Lagos continues to attract filmmakers, film producers. Now, what is the reason for this research? The next slide. Now, the reason for this research was birthed from an encounter with Heidi Hughes, who is the creative producer for Ebony Life, the Moabudu film company, and she supervised most of their blockbusters from The Wedding Party 2016 to Chief Daddy. Heidi is the lady in the middle, the South African lady. So I had this conversation alongside Judith Aldu, the other lady, who is a renowned producer, known for works such as The King's Horseman in 2021, Shantytown 2022, Rattlesnake 2020, and so on. And they raised concerns on how increasingly difficult it is to shoot in Lagos, despite deliberate efforts to sell Lagos. That was their word. So I got intrigued, sell Lagos, all right, visually. So some of the challenges they raised include harassment and extortions from the Agbero, unsafe conditions, difficulties with transportation and soaring prices of goods. The next one. So, who is the Lagos Agbero? I tried to find the meaningless photo that I can find on the internet to drive home the point. So who is the Lagos Agbero? The Agbero is another name for the area boy. We've had area boy reigning way back. Now we say Agbero, right? I mean, you've had books like The Application of Area Boys by Rotation and so on and so forth. So they're usually male. And the Lagos Agbero is your typical street person who survives on everyday drops, usually from extortions on the streets of Lagos. These males are mostly found in around bus stops, marketplaces, and crowded, places. They are fierce, but not always dangerous. Some people have said that groups have helped them navigate or some way or the other, right? They usually move in groups, they don't move solo, and behave like the landlords of the street. They are organized, usually have leaders and lieutenants and also pay taxes to their orgasm, whether willingly or forcefully to their leaders. Okay, so let's go to the question. Now, definitely Lagos, no doubt, is fascinating to the filmmaker and important to their storytelling. However, Lagos is not the best of places to shoot, especially outdoors, as the set is prone to extortions from the Lagos Bureau and some other environmental conditions and problems. So the aim of this research is to find out from filmmakers, what are the attractions to Lagos as a film location? What are the challenges of shooting in Lagos? And why do they keep shooting in Lagos despite these challenges? And I must acknowledge that there have been what I call Nollywood and Lagos scholars, chief amongst who Conor Ryan, who has recently produced a book on Nollywood and Nigerian city life, and of course, Jonathan Haynes, who has written several articles, including Nollywood in Lagos, Lagos in Nollywood films. And then these works, among other works, look at the navigation of Nollywood in urban spaces. But this research is zooming in to ask filmmakers about their fascination with Lagos as a film location. And then I want to quickly talk about the research. Talking to the, sorry, next slide, please. Okay, yeah. So the research design is descriptive. I did semi-structured interviews. Well, I've done some of the interviews. So I plan to interview 6 filmmakers. I've been able to achieve 2 because of, I thought I've done all 6 before now, but then there have been issues, but I've done 2 out of 6. I have 4 to go. So the target is to interview filmmakers, to interview filmmakers who have made films in Lagos. I used purposive sampling method and included a variety of interviewees. And okay, I can spare you the details. Let's go to the next slide. So so far, I've interviewed 2 people. It was a virtual interview for convenience and all. So the first person is Roger Sofime, with the CEO of Native Media, a production company that has been in existence for 25 years. His company has produced series such as Wura, The Johnsons, and so on. And he has vast experience as a producer. He's also produced Teen Cell, 2,000 episodes of Teen Cell, 12,000 episodes of The Johnsons, and so on. Okay, the second person is Peter Father, a Nigerian. So I'll call Roger a very experienced producer, but I'll call Peter Father a mid-level producer. He's known for very fast-paced, physically draining shoots in Lagos and other parts of the country. I'll call him mid-level. So what are the findings from this research? So from Rogers, I gathered that access to quality actors will make it to consider Lagos over any other city. Wura, that was shot in Osun for a period of 11 months, proved to be very expensive, as he had to put a vehicle on the road, or 3 vehicles on the road, transporting actors in and out of Lagos. He stated that this was very expensive and difficult to manage, and it affected the productivity of their shoots. He also stated that there are varieties of locations in Lagos that you can easily pay for and get to use. There is also access to equipment and support services. But then he also highlighted the challenges of shooting in Lagos, chief of which is the traffic, the heavier than usual traffic in Lagos compared to other towns, which makes commuting difficult, obviously. And then producer is torn between accommodating cast and crew fully at a Lagos location or making them travel through traffic to the location. And then his company has had to invest heavily in security support when shooting on the street, with the heavy presence of mopoles and soldiers. And this is really expensive. So it stated that while Of course, they are going to see the security support, but they still defy them and go ahead to, request for money. They call these monies gratuity that they pay to the agberos. So, and Rogers believes that government needs to curb the menace, otherwise the film economy will not grow. And he said, one important thing is, he said is that he's not interested in the allure of Lagos. He's not interested in the buildings or the monuments or what have you. He would pick Lagos for practical production reasons and not for the aesthetics. The second interviewee, Peter Father, says Lagos is home for him. One minute, okay. So Lagos is home for him, the familiar place for him, and he also stated, the reasons that Rogers stated. So I can just keep on and go to the summary. So tying it, of course, I can't tie it yet because I still have more filmmakers to talk to. But then what I found so far is that Lagos houses talent, and for logistic reasons, Lagos remains a choice for filming. The agro-extortion situation was created by filmmakers. That's one thing that Peter Fada said, that the filmmakers actually indulge the agbero, and that's why we have the situation that we have now. And that the government can actually step in to control this situation, but filming in Lagos would remain the first choice.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Do we have fire online now? Is it online now?
Yeah, it's still online.
So can we see if we can take him now?
Dr. Fire, can you hear us? Please unmute and speak to us. You are unmuted, you can speak now. Please use the chat box if you have any challenge out there.
Okay, so we'll go to the next person here. Tony Obisina from Lead University. You have the floor, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. The title of my work is Trends and, please can we put it on? New Place and Trends in Nigerian Theatre, a study of 3 NNLG award-winning plays. Now, what informed this paper or this research is the fact that a lot of research work has been carried out on the older generation of writers. And then there's the need to critically engage the works of these new younger Nigerian playwrights because they have written a lot and they are still writing. And they are rupturing what used to be the known norms at that particular period, the messianic interest, the Marxist influence, and you could see that these people departed from the Osho-Fusson era, from the other older writers that have gone ahead of them, the J.P. Clarks, and they decided to fashion out their own kinds of dramaturgy that will show forth what they are going through, what is the issues that is at hand, rather than waiting for the Messiah to come and deliver them. So this paper takes advantage of the Nigerian Prize for Literature, Feasible and Practical Selection benchmark for its drama category, which can be depended on standardization. Now, my supervisor and I, in the course of my PhD, came up with the term NNLG playwrights. The NNLG fashioned out a prize, which is the Nigerian Prize for Literature Competitions Prize and Award. It began in 2004 as corporate social responsibility to bring out new writers, to celebrate them, and to encourage them. And it started with $30,000, but gradually it increased to $100,000. And you can see that is the highest in the history of Nigeria and in Africa. to boost the morals of of writers, to bring them forward, to celebrate them in what they do. So the Nigerian liquefied natural gas has two prizes, one for science, one for the literature. And the literature aspect is the one I'm concentrating on. I'm looking at the dramatic aspect from 2004, even though the paper says 2010. But obviously, NNLG started the Drama Award in 2004. And so far, they have been able to bring out, I think, 15 editions with over 4,000 entries that were submitted. So from the inception, you can see that the writers, so we now decided that we have ANA writers, we have these writers. There has to be a platform to bring together all these writers, whether old or young. And we decided that, okay, let's call them NNLG playwrights, because they submit their works to the NPL, NNLG for the Nigerian Prize for Literature. And what is it that makes them different? Why is it that some people call them Spanish writers, some people call them new voices on the Nigerian stage, some people call them millennial writers? So we came up with this NNLG playwrights. So from inception of the Nigerian liquefied natural gas to date, that is from 2004 to 2003, 5 plays have been 5 plays are the winners. We have Ahmed Jerima, Hard Ground, 2006, Irobi Cemetery Road, 2010, Ukala Eredi War, and Paul Zemba, 2014, then Obari's Great, 2023. Now, one thing is peculiar about all these dramas that makes them to stand out. Now, you can see that they tend towards the same thing, survivalism. The ideal, they defy ideologies. You cannot say that this is the ideological trend or this is the way that they are moving to. But one thing is that the desire to survive, the desire to come out of where they have been fixed, informed their dramaturgy. So please, let's go to my slide. That's my introduction. So if you look at my abstract, you will see that it is stated there. Then the Nigerian Prize for Literature and the plays that, so out of these 5 winning plays, there are 5 winning plays out of over 400 entries. The NNLG started as a CSR. And then what they do is that you submit your work. For you to be able to submit your work, their benchmark is that you must be a Nigerian. Your work must be original. And then the work you are submitting must not have been submitted to somewhere else. So they have benchmark, they look at the originality, they look at the creativity, your theme, how relevant is it to the present situation in Nigeria. So aside all those ones, then they also look at your plot, they look at your structure, and then they look at all these things and put them together, which are 5 basic benchmarks that they look at. And once you are able to get through to all this, they have panel of judges, they have advisory committee that looks at the work, who sorts them out, bring them out, and then you have the first 11. When it is sorted, 11 places are brought out of the whole lot. There was most of the time 400 entries. They bring out the first 11. After the first 11, they bring out the 3, then the winners. So I looked at the first 11. So in all this, I looked at 55 plays. Then I looked at the 44 that came out, and then the last 5, who are the winners. Out of these winners, I'll be discussing 3, which is Esiaba Irobi Cemetery Road, Sam Mukala's Ready War, and Soji Cole's Embers. Now, why this? You see that in my literature review, you see that Afolayan Adesheke, 2003, examined the critical Marxist role in assessing the Nigerian theatrical landscape in Obafemi suicide syndrome. Inegbe in 2006 also offered a historical survey of Nigerian drama after Soyinka's group of writers. Ako Ame in 2006 also looked at 6 plays from the postmodernist frameworks and take on the shifting paradigm and the demerits of war era and post-civil war Nigerian plays. Now, Ogushino 2021 examined the dramaturgical articulations in 44 different plays and was able to come out that these people they have something that makes them different from what the others have written about. So apart from defined ideological doctrines, then the theoretical framework I use Said post-colonialism, Michael Foucault, and Lusatusa cultural materialist theories. This one talks about power, how people want power, materialistic. Since human beings are naturally materialistic, you want to acquire, you want to possess, and then you want power to suppress the others. Then you have can the subaltern speak? Now we say that the subaltern can speak. So the three Nigerian plays, the selected plays, utilize the NLPL's selection criteria, like I said earlier, the theme, the plot, the structure, and the language that was used in this play. Then we look at the Nairobi Cemetery Road. For instance, the play is a protest play that decries socio-political repression and tyranny of the armed forces and the struggle that plays at various socio-political stages in Nigeria. Allusion is made to the General Ibrahim Babangida and General Sani Abacha's era. So you see that this play structurally departs from Aristotle poetics and adopts a Shakespearean style of multiple setting and resolution in a singular place location. Number 13, Cemetery Road. The play employs rhetoric, symbols, and dialectics as contemporary literary devices in its advocacy for violence as a means of resistance in a linear, episodic, and cyclic style. In the past, you look at some place, they will tell you that we need to pray. Our Savior is coming. But Robi advocates violence, that the violence must take everything by force. So you see a lot of themes of death, blood, gory details in his work. Then Ukala's Ready War. Ukala's Ready War encapsulates the social-political malaise in Nigeria through a unique blend of history and contemporary dramatic style, complemented by proverbs and folklore. You see a lot of folklore, a lot of proverbs in this particular play. Then he thematizes corrupt governance, malicious followership, poverty and squalor, diseases, underdevelopment. And you can see that all these things are prevalent in the present millennium, considering the fact that this play was written in 2012, and this is 2024. That's 12 years ago. So the anomalies that we have presented at that particular period, you can see that they are manifesting now. Now, in Cold Embers, he said the devastating effect of Boko Haram insurgents and corruption on Nigeria using the structure of the IDP as a microcosm of the country. Talk about sexual exploitation. People that are supposed to go and give these people food at the IDP camps, they take the food away, they eat them, they sexually harass the girls in the IDP camps. And then when they come and tell them that an important personality is coming, then they give them window dressing. So in all these things, like I said, that these works of these dramatists, these playwrights, needs to be looked at because there's a dearth of critical works on them. By the time you start reading them, you know that they have ruptured what's used to obtain in the past with their style of writing, with their plots, with their structure. You can look, if you look at one thing that fascinates me in Cemetery Road, this play started from the end to the beginning. It started from the burial of the protagonist. And you know that most plays, the protagonists don't die in the play. But in Nairobi's play, the protagonist died, and he was killed by the state, and the state mourned him. That is what we have in our hand in present-day Nigeria. Then when you look at the colors of the window dressing that comes there, it's also pervade. So this discourse, I discovered, now this is what I discovered in the play, that the new plays explore new trends in Nigerian dramatic traditions and constitute an emergent dramatic tradition that defies ideological classification, rupture, and previous dramaturgic patterns. And then these millennium plays, you can also call them millennium plays. The millennium plays rupture post-colonial and post-independence issues already reflected on by old playwrights. And they expose the socio-political reality in Nigeria as a nation that is at war with itself. And obviously, you will agree with me that Nigeria is at war with itself. The playwright is seen as a visionary. So all these things that this one have seen in the past, and they are able to preempt and advocate that if care is not taken, this is what is going to happen in the future, is what is happening. So the paper concludes that the selected place, one, it aligns with the literary award criteria without breaking away totally from the previous dramaturgic patterns that has been established. Then in theme, plot structure, and character, the play constitutes an emergent dramatic tradition that defies ideological dealing, yet elucidates individualism, human survival instinct, and social, economic, political challenges. The new plays have indeed set a new trend in Nigeria theater tradition. Why? Because the way, when you look at the trends and the pattern of writing, and you see that there's a particular movement, a movement away from all the isms, a movement away from what used to be while we are waiting for Godot. Nobody is waiting for Godot now, it's violence. If you cannot be violent, then don't join them. At least let's expose them. So I looked, so it's employed, so part of the findings of this play, okay, I've already said it. So you can see that this play that I have looked at, they have indeed set a new trend in Nigerian theater traditions, and they are marking as it's a marker. They are now markers of emergent tradition. Thank you very much.
I will go to Dr. Fire now.
Dr. Fire, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you. I've been hearing you. Can you hear me too?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. You're welcome.
Oh, I'm very sorry for the challenges over here.
Yeah, so you have,
trying to see how.
yeah, you have 15 minutes to make your presentation, please.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much.
And your time starts to count now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody on the panel, the chairman, and the distinguished discussants. The title of my paper is Social Philosophy, Design Philosophy in the 21st Century Drama, Reflections of Selected Plays and Productions in Nigeria. Now, the focus of my presentation is actually to find out, to see what, given the plethora of design philosophies that is available, over time, over the world, and even as practice in Nigeria.
Can you share your slide with us?
Oh, no, I can't. Actually, I have a problem with I was trying to use my laptop, but because of power, the battery has run down, so I can't do it now. In fact, right now I'm using my phone.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the challenge of the light challenge here. Okay, so I was saying that my focus is on the presentation. What actually could be the best design philosophy that could be used in the 21st drama situation in Nigeria, given the plethora of design theories and philosophies, concepts that are available. Now the result of the research is that design philosophy is actually the social philosophy of every society. Now, design is part of the works which the playwright actually produces, and the playwright is also part of the society. And so whatever the playwright writes as a form of drama, drama encompasses all other forms within its presentation, and design is part of it. Now, it now calls to mind, what is social philosophy? Since design philosophy is a social philosophy of the society, what is the social philosophy, particularly of Nigeria, because that's the context from which we are coming from. And then we realize that the social philosophy in Nigeria, particularly, is actually a disordered philosophy. It's fragmented philosophy, because of the disordered nature of the society, the fragmented nature of the society. And why is this so? It is because over time, a lot of ideas have come in. In the past, it used to be the traditional philosophy, the cultural philosophy of the people, which covers all their dramatic presentations. But given the issues of post-colonialism and post-modernism, imperialism, and so on and so forth, mafianism, society is actually not one direction. It's not unidirectional now. It is multi-directional. And so this is the social philosophy at the moment. There is no particular philosophy that particularly the leaders are pursuing, and so this has affected the general nature of the society. Now, this is what has also affected the playwrights of the last decades. You discover that within this large river of diverse issues, social issues, and ideas, working up together. The playwright have found themselves in the midst of this, and everybody is juggling with one idea or the other, trying to see how a solution could be brought out to solve the problem. Now, there's no way the designer could actually adapt a operational philosophy in order to assist the dramatist in carrying out or presenting its message. Since design philosophy is generally the concept of assisting every event, every work of a playwright in terms of the setting, in terms of the makeup, in terms of the costume, in terms of the plot, and general characterization, and all that would assist the playwright in producing its message. Now, since the society has lost control, since the society is fragmented, many ideas are juggling within the environment. The playwright is flowing within them. So the designer cannot also box himself within one idea, within one philosophy. He needs to adapt the experimental philosophy, a mixed bag of different ideas in order to follow the designer, to follow the playwright. Now, what are we talking about? We have decided to look at a number of plays within the last over one decade in Nigeria. We have looked at the works of two plays of Bodo Jenny. We've looked at the works of two plays of St. Bilika, and also the works of Ijue, in order to substantiate what we're talking about. And they have all tried to depict within this play. For instance, Ojoni's The Play of the Palliative, has brought out the issue of the reality concerning the looting of palliatives, the social moment in which fraudsters, hoodlums had to break into stores to confiscate or take away some of those palliative materials that were actually given to the governors to share to the masses, and then they went and stored them in different places. So we discovered that because the society has lost control, everybody is agitated. While the leaders are trying to see how they will steal from the masses are also trying to see how they will cut their share. So the society has become the survival of the fittest. He who has the chance takes it. So you discover that the masses also broke into the store to take the share after it was given to them, while the politicians were keeping it to share it during their political campaigns, and then see how they will steal from society again. From the masses. So it's a criminal society. There's a lot of crime going on, and crime has turned to be normal. A lot of issues, from abnormality to normality. So the playwright's job is actually to showcase, to mirror the society, the way the society is, so that the member of society can learn from it. And so why these playwrights present this? In St. Bilika's The Roadblock, it's the issue of unemployed youths who have blocked the road, trying to see that the government must come to address them, because it's the government who is responsible to create employment. And we have used the progressive theory in order to make this analysis. The progressive theory is part of the developmental theory, proponents of John Locke, John Jacques Rousseau, and Dewey, and host of others. And what they're saying is that there has to be structures on ground, positive structures to enable the society progress. And so because the leaders, the political leaders have failed to set positive structures, models that could help the society progress, move forward. And so what we are seeing is that continually we are rivaling within these challenges, these problems, and the society is getting worse and worse. Like I said, the philosophy of the Nigerian society at the moment is out of control. It is fragmented. It is in disorder. And so what we say is that the ideas of the playwright are also showing this disorder. We see the leaders stealing from the masses, stealing the public funds, doing all kinds of abnormality. And then we see the masses also retaliating and trying to do also the same abnormality. And so it is the reign of illegality. We see cases of the police, the security officers who are supposed to maintain the law, also doing their own illegality. So illegality is on the reign. Now, all this gamut presents what I say is the social philosophy. Now, the designer has to present to assist the playwright or the director in order to achieve this by presenting that chaotic kind of our society in terms of thematic and symbolic analysis and interpretation of these works. And this has happened in two of these productions, the production of the palliative and also the production of the roadblock, where these symbols were actually set on the set. And then the characters were also given costumes that will really depict the situation. Of course, the playwright used those plays as a metaphor of Nigeria. But in interpretation, the designer has to use those real symbols that brings out the picture of a Nigerian situation in chaos. Now, what we have, the paper, the research is talking about is that we have, the research, the paper has been able to establish that the social philosophy of the time is out of control, like I said, and also the design has to follow the out of control. So the designer does not necessarily have a unique operational philosophy that he needs to follow. Like it is a general characteristic of the 21st century drama, where the design concept is actually mostly experimental drama. Experimental philosophy, different ideas joined up together to see how a work would actually come out. So it is about interpreting the play correctly, bringing out its visual quality. It is not about what idea somebody has proposed in terms of realism, in terms of naturalism, in terms of existentialism and all of that. It is about what concepts, what motifs could best interpret the play as it comes up. And this has to do with what the reality of the setting, the reality of the characters, the reality of the plot as it is captured by the playwright or as it's created by the playwright in order to really send the message across to the audience. So what you have said is that, yes, the designer may also not be one-directional, but that is because his job is to assist the playwright to bring out his job, to bring out his work as the message will be communicated to the audience. And therefore, by the virtue of the fact that the society is in disorder, the works that are created by the current playwrights, the playwrights within this last decade, they also seem as presenting the society in a confused state. Okay, a society welcoming all ideas because society has become liberal, open to all forms of ideas. Like I said, globalization is part of the influences of this society. Okay, where the ideas of the West are coming. And so less about the ethics, the norms, the values of the society are actually accepted by the society. Everybody is looking up to what will make you survive. It is a survival of the fittest. Society where hunger has taken over everybody. And that's part of what pushed the masses to go into illegality. Okay, so it is about how will I survive in the society of the survival of the fittest. Okay, so these playwrights have these ideas and they are pushing. Of course, the idea of rebellion, the idea of agitation, and the idea of protest has been on. It has been on for over 5 decades. The likes of Kola Omotosho, the likes of Femi Oshofison, the likes of Bodesho, and they all wrote these works of rebellion, asking the masses to unite, to mobilize, to see how they could use up power from those who are not ready to do the right thing. And you see that this has continued up to this moment, because at this time, these issues have gone out of hand. They have become more dynamic. Our society has become more dynamic, in issues of that affects humanity. So these playwrights are there. And now part of this issue is that some playwrights have argued, some scholars have argued that there's no particular philosophy, of this particular generation in their works. They are not pursuing a particular philosophy like the playwrights in the past were pursuing the radical philosophy and the Marxist philosophy and so on and so forth. But now, what is that philosophy? That society. The job of the playwright, of the dramatist, is to capture the society at the moment. The society at the moment is not of a particular ideology. There are many ideologies juggle together. So as the playwright, runs around, tries to address these issues, the society brings more. And then he has a plethora of issues to address. And as these issues and concepts and ideas are coming up, the designer also does the same. In conclusion, let me just conclude here at this moment, since I don't have. Okay, let me round up. Hello?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, fine. So let me just round up. like I said, it is discovered, or we have discovered, I have discovered in the research that social conduct is actually, it actually determines the social philosophy and vice versa. So the conduct of the people is actually what determines the social philosophy. Okay, so since the people's conduct is not correct, it's not positive, the social philosophy is also not positive, it is not progressive. Okay, it is confused, it is out of control. Like I said, it is all welcoming, all directional in pursuit of whatever can be a solution to the problem. And that's what the playwrights are also doing, trying to see how society can look itself and get a direction. Now, what we are saying in conclusion is that the current government policies cannot help the society to survive within the context of these issues. The government needs to look inwards to reshape its policies in a way that it can help the society. There is need for a mental reordering. Okay, so but the playwright needs to continue to do his work so that through its work, it might reflect the issues which are a problem at the moment, and the people, with the hope that it will boost rigorous research, for solutions, and then increase awareness over the issues, and then the need for a rethink, and then also to make people laugh, to entertain the people. After all these challenges, the thinking, the collapsing, and all of that, the people need a place to laugh. And so the theater needs to recreate this. Even if it doesn't bring so much light, at least it should make the people laugh and let the society continue to regenerate in that direction. So the design helps in that direction to bring the visual quality of those productions so that the audience will understand very well. Thank you very much for listening.
Dr. Fania, thank you very much. You have said so many things that I agree with what Madam Toyi Commissioner also said in her paper. It's as if the two of you consulted yourself. Well, I think it's just in dealing with the reality, the social reality of here we find ourselves. So that we have come to a point that we don't even have a culture outside the kind of what is called the slogan culture, the culture. And I hope that he has so many questions and issues to raise as we go. I'm playing two parts. I am also presenting a paper, so I'm going to speak to my paper now, and then we'll open the floor for questions and interactions. My paper is entitled Rethinking Contemporary African Cultural Memory Activism in Theater Making Through Omodulabi Performance Aesthetics. That is the title of my paper. I hope we are able to project it because I will be speaking to you. Please, can you just help me to the content so that we go on? Yes. And then can you just can you give us two? I will. Okay, just press it. You see, I will unlock to the management system and set down the language. The abstracts, if you give us full paper, we'll be able to interact with it the way I want it. I mean, the full screen. That's really actually. Go down there. Okay, so can you just press enter? Okay, enter again, please. Yes, you can take all over and manipulate it with myself. Oh, yes. Okay. Okay, so this is the abstract. I'm talking about the binary of character making within the Greek theater and then the African theater as represented by Shoyinka and Nietzsche. And I'm trying to say that there is a kind of, as Carl Jung said that there is a universal bank of consciousness from where different tribes draw identifiable patterns. So in essence, you cannot categorically say that this is totally unique to you. When you go into different cultures, you find different patterns. And the argument here is that beyond copying those patterns, can we look at something indigenous to us that we can use to renegotiate character development, especially for cultural re-engineering? Within the discourse of this chaos, this disorder that we're talking about, can we have individuals who will rise beyond that and be able to say, look, I'm going to stand for this value. I'm going to stand for this value, irrespective of the disorder in the community. Now, in essence, I'm then talking about character imagining. How do you imagine yourself? And as a playwright, how do you imagine your characters and create your character in order to help the society? You know, Dr. Fire and Madam Tony spoke about the chaos, the crisis, but can't we have a way forward? Is that how we allow the society to continue to grow, go without really suggesting something or a way out of the problem? So binary character imagination, what is binary thinking? It's a universal scientific thinking or thought process around choice making, arguably between two options. When you say binary, you're talking about two. But then let us not limit it to just the two, because within the binary thinking, we always have chains of other signs that they relate with. So that if I mention good, evil, for you to understand good, you must understand evil. And for you to fully understand good, you must understand maybe the concept of white, friendship, support. The same thing goes for evil. To understand evil, you have to understand probably the concept of Satan, devil, blackness. So like that. So when we talk about binary opposition, it's not just within the two main signs. Those signs are also supported by other signs in what is called chains of reactions. So it's a universal way of thinking. The Yorubas have a saying that meaning that the world itself is created in the balance of evil and good. So it's always a choice anyway that we make. So that is, it is often erroneously thought of as representing Western episteme. You see, people think of binary opposition as who is representing Western ideas. No, it's a universal idea. This is what we're saying. And the Yoruba thought pattern also functions by binary options. For example, they have a philosophy that claims, as I've said, now note that binary options or choices extend to the chains of other signs, as I've said, and the way it functions, unfortunately, this picture is not allowing you to see it, but the way binary opposition functions is that you have what is called the opposition between the signs, then you have what is called difference marking, then after you have marked difference, then you privilege certain signs above the other. For instance, now, let's say a lady has about 3 men or 5 men trying to woo her in marriage. Now, to make a choice out of the 5 men, she will have to mark a difference between them using certain elements and features. Now, those elements and features will be used to privilege 1 out of the 5 above the remaining 4. And then, once the privileging has happened, she will do elimination. The 4 will be eliminated, the 1 that is remaining will now be back. So I think what happens in every choice we make every day as individuals, we always have these oppositions going on, difference marking, privileging, and eliminating. You eliminate this action for this action. And it's also what the politicians do. They privilege their own interests above our own interests, and then they try to eliminate us. So yeah. So this is also what we try to now bring into character making in drama. As a dramatist, how do you exemplify or show this opposition as it's going on? The politicians, the hegemony, how is it that they privilege this, and what are they doing to eliminate us? So in Greek drama, according to Nietzsche, we have 2 types of characters. We have the Dionysian character traits. The Dionysian character is known for revelry, spontaneity, impulsiveness, and violence. And then we have the Apollonian character trait, known for serenity, reflectivity, wisdom, and peace. Then, of course, in the Yoruba, and don't forget, it's essentially mythic. Essentially mythic. And then Soyinka argued for Ghanaian character traits, which shares the same value with the Onitshian character traits, and then the Obatalian character traits, which also shares the same value with the Apollonian character traits. Now, it's also essentially mythic. So we are proposing what we call the Omoluabi essence character philosophy. Now, the Omoluabi character philosophy talks about a character in the Yoruba imagination that is known as Omoti Oluiwabi. It is actually a philosophy of moral value that places expectation on an individual to have responsibility to others, not just to yourself, but to others. I was discussing with my brother that we need to move beyond the binary relationship of self and other. We must move into what we call self of selves, so that it's not just self. You know that the other person is not just other. He's also a self that has his own interests. So you don't prioritize your own interest above his own interest. You must negotiate his own interest or our own interest within your own interest. So these are part of the things we do to now propose the Omoluabi character essence for development of the Yoruba or a future of African drama. So it captures the envisaged character development of every Yoruba child for national development. In fact, if you are called, say, Omo Ale, Tabi Omo Buruku, or you are called Omo Eshu within the Yoruba imagination, it is a character censorship. So everybody really wants to be the Omoluabi, regarded as Omoluabi. And Omoluabi is not expected to kill, it's not expected to steal, it's not expected to be involved in corruption, manipulation, and those things. So, in essence, it's the moral character attributes of Oluwa, the Lord of Virtue. And this is the character imagination of the Yoruba. So let me jump because of time, because I know I may be running against time. These are some citations that you may want to look at. Actually, Omoluabi philosophy is also an educational philosophy, as propounded by Adebisi Apolayan. If you have time, you can look into these tables. He presented it in Yoruba, interpreted it to English with Atoye Difemi here. Now, the conflict in relation to conference team, the conference team talks about African people's culture and institutional emotion. I've said that anything that is emotion is in a state of flux. In essence, you can't categorically define this. It has different features. So what really then is the African culture that we are talking about? So let us start by the notion of emotion now. If you move from point A to B, the hair that moves from point A going to B is not the hair that arrives at point B. For instance, if you travel from Nigeria now to say Ghana or to say Canada, your experiences in Canada will definitely renegotiate whoever you have been before. Okay, there are certain things that you will do in Nigeria that you cannot try in Canada. And when you then also return from Canada, except something is wrong with that individual, certain things will also have been renegotiated in that individual that is returning to point B. So in essence, if A leaves and goes to point B, he becomes AB. And if B is coming back to point A, he becomes ABBA. So these are issues that will have taken place in that individual. Okay, so in essence, there are so many things we have in here. We'll talk about rupturing. Shift would have occurred in the cultural memory of that individual. In essence, a people with cultural and institutional emotion are in a constant state of influx, mutability. They keep changing. Thus, they are in constant conflict of memory rupturing, shift, and mutability. And so part of our argument is really that as of today, there is no homogeneous, and we should not even be thinking of any homogeneous African identity again. We should be thinking of how we can really leverage on our experiences and the things that we have now to begin to recreate ourselves. What is important to me is that I don't want a president who will feel so big and happy that he's going to London to treat malaria or headache. I want a president who will be able to say, look, we need to replicate whatever we have seen over there as an anomaly within our system here. So I use this picture to represent what goes on in what we call the cultural memory. It's a lot of things going on in the head of an individual that cannot make that individual to be fixed into a particular identity. So the homology essence aesthetics for performance application, as I've said, it works by binary opposition, principle of inclusiveness versus reflectivity. In essence, when you are training your actors, you want them to reflect on their own actions. And you also want them to reflect on the actions they want to represent. You want them to reflect on society. And you want them to reflect on what role they are also playing. The same thing goes for the playwright. The playwright must reflect on his own intentionality. So, and he must become deliberate. Because an homology must become deliberate with his actions, must become deliberate with the way he thinks and the way he acts. So these are things we are now promoting and using to train our actors and artists. So it actually goes against showing a ritual drama or the Marxism thing. It's about individual taking responsibility for the society as an individual. Let me quickly just jump to my conclusion because of time. There are a lot of things we have done on this, talking about reflective character actions, intuitive character actions, and how we can blend them for actions. Thank you very much. Okay, please, okay. Won't waste time. We have 10 minutes for questions and interactions. Please, if you have questions for any of the panelists and the audience that is online, we will take your copy. Yes. Yes.
Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, madam.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Martina. So thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this panel. Very interesting solution project for this. My first question is also to thoroughly enjoyed the paper. You spoke confidently, you spoke like the experts that you have. And I'm going to ask you an expert question because I'm interested in that. So you said the millennials also that their work ruptures post-colonial and independent and post-independent issues. So what do you mean by rupture? So I don't understand what you meant into that saying. Then I'm going to ask you, how have issues changed? What are the millennials also doing that is different from what the older generation did? Are they addressing anything differently? Is it not the same issues that they are still writing and writing about? And then another thing you said was that you mentioned Marxism along the way around in its circumstances. Is there really anything like in Marxist literature when it comes to Nigerian drama? That's all. Thank you. My second question, let me just drop it in look sharp. Question is to you. So, and Dr. Bode, your paper is very philosophical and very deep. And I believe that for you to explain this is not something that you can just discuss in 15 minutes. I believe if we give you an hour, we still go at length to talk about it. So, because you people do drama, I want to bring it to my understanding. So when you talk about the concept, and when you talk about understanding an option of spell and several spells, is this the concept of the now? Is it anywhere related to the concept of the input to? Sure. Okay. If it's that good. And you said something about shift in cultural memory. So I was thinking that if it's you are either here or here, but you're saying that it's not that you're either here or here, but there's an in between that exists. So it's not just black or white. There are gray areas in between. Is that what you're trying to say? Sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll just thanks to all the contestants. Because I because of them, I'm just leaving my first question. Tony is what I see on. Diamond. Yes, Dr. Tony. Right. So, one of the first comments, you're talking about the depiction of biologists in some of the texts you referenced. And in another part of the slide, we're talking of some of the secondary materials that you're using to read those primary texts. And it seems to me that if you're talking about biologists, wouldn't it be useful to consider, phenomena, for example, that's what I say on biology. And I'm, suggesting that in case of someone conclusion will reach, talking about the fact that these texts are rooted in postcolonial. So they might be something. The other thing that I now want to ask you is your taxonomy of experiments. In other words, there is this block, there is the NLNG players, and they differ radically according to me, from say people with payroll of the life for choice. But when we were doing even the summary, the plot summary of the 3 fundamental tests, and I kept asking myself, so there is a oceanic difference between the LNG clearance, and of course, the device services. And finally, see about the LNG clearance. How do you mean that they are driven by, again, according to you, what survivalism? We appreciate if you expatiate what you mean by, they are being animated as survivalism.
Okay, we'll take one more question and then we'll answer the questions. If we have more time, then we'll take.
Okay, my question goes to both of you because your presentation are similar. Myself, it's clear the one and
I think, that's a fine.
because when you talk about the Johnson team, all right, talk about what's happening now, where so many things jumbled up together. I think that those are the result of the, like the following my sister, philosophy. You fight between the visual and the one class orders. So whatever dynamics that are coming from it are still as a result of that the controversy between class. So what are the difference? I mean, kind of you say that because what is happening because of the controversy between the political class and the masses.
It's okay. I think we should open the floor. Yeah. Is Dr. Bayan going to answer first? Did you hear the question? Okay, Dr. Tony, please.
Thanks, sir. Please, madam, if you don't mind, let me just start so that I can juggle my memory if I don't. Yeah, when we talk about the NNL playwrights, the NNL playwright comprises of both old and young writers. So it's not just a particular set of people, it's still the same set of old and younger writers that are using that avenue to promote their work, to make it known to others. So now, I'm not advocating balance. And I did mention that one of the places, like Nairobi, when you look at Nairobi is known as the avant-garde, the arrowhead of all these angry bottles. And if we all respond, there's a lot of violence. in the Ruby's form, apart from gory details of blood. I made mention of that, not that I'm advocating violence.
So I think you don't understand my question. I didn't. Say that I use that theory to negotiate what
Okay.
you of that for me to support the analysis. It's what I'm saying. No, I didn't say that.
All right. Thank you. Now you made mention that why didn't I use the family? Now you
No. We'll be wasting time. If it's relevant to what you are doing, just enjoy it.
Okay, because it's okay. The theories and variations are actually the influence of power material. But thank you. I've also looked at that one since it's a work in progress. And it's a topic I'm very, very interested in because I want to know, like you said, if we can combine the theory of commodality and merge the two together in present day situation in which we find ourselves, it is possible. Thank you very much. Now, the second question, please. Somebody. Yes. When I read through all these books, you see, in the period of Koshokoso, even though at that point in time, they also advocated that the masses should free themselves. And you always have these masses. But these ones are not going to wait for masses. It's me, myself, and I need to survive to get out of this. Now you can't compare Chooks Okoye, right? You know, with the beast. You cannot compare it to Femi Oshofuso's work.
Please, please support you. I've just been told that we just have 1 million. It's so unfortunate. I think we will continue these conversations after lunch. So please, can we? Maybe before we go, I was afraid when you said studied about 44 years. 44 places, you know. I wonder that maybe when we leave this place, we also engage them. On this note, please, I'd like to appreciate all of you for being part of this panel. I would like to say that we are still open for continuous conversation on these issues. I also want to appreciate everyone that presented paper on this panel. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.